Hey innovators, have you ever wondered what makes Kickstarter tick? I'm fascinated by Kickstarter as a platform for collaboration and a place where new ideas come to life. To understand Kickstarter's magic, I did a game thinking teardown of Kickstarter's core progression and collaboration systems. I also interviewed Cindy Au, the former VP of Community at Kickstarter, to better understand how their team developed the platform and managed growth over time. If you're into collaborative systems and empowering creatives to bring their ideas to life, you're gonna love this episode. Now, let's talk about Kickstarter. And when I look at Kickstarter, I see a massive cooperative gaming platform. Every campaign is a short-term cooperative game where a bunch of people come together to accomplish something they couldn't do on their own, to accomplish something larger than themselves. Kickstarter started with a very strong vision, and as you'll hear in a little while from Cindy Au, one of the early employees, cross-functional teams brought that vision to life, but the vision really drove their core, and it's really the secret to a lot of their success. Cindy says, we succeeded because we said no a lot to all the tempting quick wins. And a lot of those had to do with the difference between leveraging competition and leveraging cooperation. Let's start by talking about the backbone of game thinking, the player's journey. Let's look at Kickstarter's player's journey. This is about how you map out your end-to-end customer experience. How does it evolve over time? If you've ever done a customer journey map, this is similar, but the thread is learning and mastery. So, discovery is for visitors. Visitors want to know, is this right for me? What's the value prop? Just a second. Sorry. I'm sorry. There we go. Sorry, I had a brief glitch. So the discovery stage for Kickstarter is largely social. How do people, we're talking right now about people that fund projects, because Kickstarter is a two-sided marketplace. How do funders discover Kickstarter? Largely through social media and direct outreach, via friends and followers and email. In that sense, Kickstarter is very game-like, as is Slack. Onboarding is the phase where you're learning the ropes. It's for newbies. Kickstarter has wonderful layers of onboarding that unfold. There's so much you can learn. And one of the things I love about Kickstarter is the way that they let you browse and explore. Again, very game-like. It's directed, but there's a lot of being acknowledgement that part of why you're there is to explore things that are interesting to you. Habit building is for regulars. Habit building kicks in once someone's invested. It's what's the thing that pulls you back? And if you're smart and you're doing skill building and learning, what's the thing that you're getting better at? Kickstarter is masterful at driving engaged habits. Engaged habits are habits that involve some sort of engaged trigger, which is a trigger that only kicks in once someone's invested. We'll talk about that more in a moment. Once you've invested money into a campaign, you're emotionally invested in seeing that it wins. And because Kickstarter has a clear win-lose state, again, which makes it game-like versus some other funding platforms, it really drives a lot of emotional engagement. Mastery is for enthusiasts and experts. Mastery is really about leveraging the skills and knowledge and the investment that you've made. So when you're heading toward mastery in Kickstarter, you know, I actually funded several projects before I tweeted about one. The first one I ever tweeted about was LeVar Burton's, because Reading Rainbow meant so much to me. And I've worked with LeVar, and it just really meant a lot to me. So I tweeted about it. And then I got really interested in seeing if my tweet would get retweets and likes. And there you go. There's your engaged trigger. So now let's talk about the other side of this two-sided marketplace, creators. So onboarding for creators in the player's journey, again, lots of resources. It takes you through setting up a campaign. There's a whole creator handbook. They have a lot of support and a lot of onboarding. Habit building is all about
checking your stats. There's so many ways to check your stats. Once you're running a campaign, in the earliest days, the only stats you could really check were your video stats, your video views. So people would treat those as a proxy. Kickstarter's evolved a lot since then. But it's still habit building, you know, and you check them and you see when you do outreach, when you send a message, when you engage with people, what result does it have on your stats? It's a very, very deeply engaging journey as you play this cooperative game of getting your project funded. Mastery for creators, one is figuring out Kickstarter enough to get your project funded. Did you set your goal too high, too low, etc.? So that's stage one of mastery. But you can go beyond that, as we'll see in a moment. It's really powerful, and unfolding these layers is what makes Kickstarter drive so much long-term engagement. Mastery is best when it leads to greater impact. So if you think about gamification and loyalty marketing, you know, there's status markers and there's special privileges. That's all well and good. But if you want your mastery to really drive emotion and engagement, what people that have invested in your system really want is impact and opportunities. Kickstarter is a great example of that. They now, it's fairly recent, launched Kickstarter Experts, which is a curated marketplace of consultants that can help newbies with their campaigns. And these are people that have all successfully completed multiple campaigns. Now let's dive in and look at the learning loop. First, let's start with the funders. So the first part of any strong learning loop is a repeatable and pleasurable activity. It has to stay interesting again and again and again. That satisfies an internal urge or need. People aren't going to form a habit unless there's an emotion and an internal urge. Just external, people turn off notifications if they're not connected to what they want to do. So with Kickstarter, the thing that is the trigger is there's something new that I'm passionate about. If you're bored, you might go browse Kickstarter. If you see something like I did when I saw LeVar's tweet about Reading Rainbow campaign, I'm passionate about that. It meant a lot to me. So boom, I want to be part of that. I want to help that. I want to join that community. And the repeatable, pleasurable activity is exploring campaigns, whether you're browsing several or just diving deep into one. It stays interesting because the content keeps changing and because you're following your own passions. So here's diving into a campaign. Videos mean a lot, and there's a whole art and almost a science around doing a really good Kickstarter video. The next stage of a powerful learning loop is some kind of feedback that just tells you, okay, you're doing the right thing. Okay, you're done with this task. Okay, etc. And the big one in Kickstarter is when you donate. When you donate, you're joining a community. You're not just funding a campaign. Kickstarter makes that very clear. They congratulate you. They give you opportunities. Your name shows up in the funding list. A lot happens. Again, just like in a game. But yet, the feedback is quite simple. The third stage of a strong learning loop is when you start to develop an investment system, progress system, and then engage triggers. An engage trigger is something that a newbie wouldn't respond to. It's not a notification. It's checking your stats when you care about your stats. So here in Kickstarter, the investment system is sharing your story. And Kickstarter is brilliant because right at that moment when you're emotional, you've just pulled out your wallet and donated, join the community. Yay, congratulates you. You're official, you show up. You can now message, you can be part of the conversation. And Kickstarter says, hey, why don't you share your story? So when you do share your story, the whole loop starts again. And on social media, somebody else will see it. They'll click through just like you did when you discovered it. And now you're interested in checking your stats. Now you've just got an engaged trigger. So there's my engaged trigger. Let's look at the creator loop. Again, two-sided marketplace, different motivations. And any of you that are building two-sided marketplaces, these tools work beautifully for thinking through the different motivations and how they interlock and how to balance them, which is the challenge of everyone building a two-sided marketplace. So for creators, this is what the learning loop looks like. The engaging activity is managing your campaign. It's reading and answering messages. It's engaging with your community. You've got to do that a lot if you're going to be successful. The internal urge is, how's my campaign doing? Are there actions I can take to make it go well? So this is an example of the kind of stats that you can look at to see what's going on with that. The simple feedback is it's actually kind of similar to Slack and to email. It's like, I've read all the messages. There was this list of notifications. There were things I needed to take care of. They're all taken care of. Boom, I've done it. There it is. I've taken care of my notifications. Really simple, incredibly important for this kind of loop to work well. And then the investment system is creating a new post, creating a new update, creating a new reward level, which happens a lot during campaigns. You unfold things over time. It builds excitement. It's very engaging. And then the engage trigger that goes with it is checking your stats. There's a connection between them. That's why it's a system, not just an action. So, and here's another example of, your comments, your stats, all of this are things that as a campaigner become the triggers that pull you back and tell you if you're doing everything that you can to make your campaign a success. Now let's dig into the cooperative mechanics. Kickstarter is amazing at doing this. The first thing I want to point you out to is the choices that Kickstarter made on their basic campaign page. If you look at everything is group stats. It's collaborative. It's a we. There's 149 backers. And if you dig in, you're not going to see an ordered list that shows you who gave the most, because that's not the point. The point is we are all helping doing this. This is how much we've pledged. Oh, but we have this more to go. And everything is structured around the idea of we. Now let's look at Kickstarter's homepage. It's an even better example. You're probably familiar with leaderboards. And this is a different technique. It's called a spotlight. Kickstarter uses spotlights rather than leaderboards. Those of you who read my Medium article, which goes into this in more detail, will remember this. So Kickstarter made a choice to not put, here's the top 10 campaigns in this, and this, but to just have a spotlight mechanism for each of their categories. So you can just, again, this is also designing for exploration. You can just click through these categories and you'll just see a project we love. They make no bones about it. They're not saying it's fair. It's just a project we love. And it's a spotlight. It's a way to highlight excellence, which, by the way, tells everybody in the community, this is how we do it, right? Highlighting excellence is a great thing to do. Problem with a leaderboard is newbies come in, they look at it and they're like, I could never be there. Leaderboards can be really demoralizing. But a spotlight makes anybody feel like they could be there. And some of the spotlights are small campaigns, some are bigger, it's all over the place. By doing it this way, you can take a pool of your content or your people and just kind of say, here's what excellence means. Let's put spotlights on it and change those spotlights all the time to showcase excellence while still maintaining a cooperative environment. It's a simple and very powerful mechanic. So let me summarize the game thinking design tips that you learned today. A strong vision will help you say no. Very important. You can engage your customers over time with a learning loop, even if you start very, very simple. You want to reward the people that go deep, the people that master your system, your best customers, with impact and opportunity, not trinkets. You can use cooperative stats and a cooperative UX to help build group identity and create the idea of we. And you can use spotlights rather than leaderboards to showcase excellence if you want to create a collaborative, cooperative environment.
People, when they think about, oh, there's a goal and it's a money-based goal, there's such a huge temptation to start adding things like, oh, well, let's give someone a trophy if they're like the biggest backer, or, let's have the top 10 campaigns sitting next to each other on a leaderboard. But when you think about, again, why Kickstarter came into being, which again it was really meant to just be, a place where people could feel comfortable trying. You can imagine where that hyper competitiveness would immediately sort of turn so many people away, where no longer, are you focused on what you're doing and really just letting that guide you, but you're now focused on, oh, well, these other 10 people are doing it better than me, and I don't feel like mine's worthwhile anymore. And that, obviously would be a huge detriment to not just the site, but just to, this whole landscape of people being able to create. It's really antithetical. And I think that collaborativeness is really, in this funny way, what caused the site to be as big as it has been, because it's open, it's inviting, it's saying anyone can try this. And it's not about beating the campaign next to you, and it's not about winning in your industry. It's about sort of setting a goal for yourself and, figuring out how you can work with people and build a community around that, and challenging yourself and others, in your network to be part of that. And that's sort of where the challenge comes from, not from competition.
So what Cindy shared is, in essence, that they had many, many temptations along the way to juice their stats with competitive mechanics, to make top 10 lists, and a lot of their campaigners asked them for it. They said, I want to highlight my really high-paying people, et cetera, et cetera. They resisted the urge. And the reason they resisted the urge is they didn't want to demoralize the little guy. They wanted everyone to feel part of something bigger than themselves.